And ladies and gentlemen, I must just say that these words, education through science, technology, and innovation towards the Africa we want, are not just words, they're not theoretical for me. I was born in Orlando East in a township in Soweto during the apartheid days. I saw that even in the most turbulent political environment, education was truly, as Nelson Mandela said, the key to unlock the door to our future. I can tell you right now that even in that depressed environment, Soweto, my township, produced doctors, mathematicians, teachers, esteemed religious leaders, innovators. But where would they be if more investment was made in their future? I fast forward to the 80s and 90s, a period of extreme violence in Soweto. Yet here I am, standing at the UN headquarters in front of you. And I know why I am here. I am here precisely because education opened the door. Education afforded me the upward mobility. So what do we do with this big potential opportunity and challenge? What do we do with the reality that the spending on education in most African countries, even as they embrace programs, as they embrace projects for quality education and to transform their economies, spending as a share of GDP has been stagnant at 3.7% since 2021. What do we do with the reality that about 288 million children are out of school, especially in conflict-affected areas? What do we do with the fact that we have SDG 4, which is, I remind you, to situate us in this moment today, SDG 4, ensuring inclusive, equitable, quality education and promote lifelong learning for all, not for some, for all. What do we do with the reality that the AU itself has a 10-year continental education strategy for Africa, 2016 to 2025, ensuring that no child gets left behind? 2025 is next year. Can we look at ourselves in the mirror? Can we say that we've mobilized every resource, every goodwill, every piece of expertise? Have we brought our best selves to this SDG 4 agenda? Have we done that? I would suspect that we haven't. We need investment, we need resources, we need the funding, we need your heart, we need your courage. We need you to seize the moment and hear the youth that has been speaking during this Africa Dialogue series. The young people who spoke throughout the week don't want charity. They don't want to be ignored. What they want is to work with the UN. You will hear that in the report. They want to know, how can we work with you? And so, I remind you of the importance of STEM. As the Undersecretary and Special Advisor says, that STEM is no longer niche. It's not a privilege. It is a basic ingredient if we are to inject some life into our African economies. It is a basic ingredient if we are to empower the youth. Education in science, technology, and innovation towards the Africa we want. That's our theme today. Welcome. What we're going to do in the next few minutes is have our high-level opening segment. We'll get welcome remarks, and it will be moderated by Her Excellency Ambassador Fatima Mohamed, Permanent Observer of the African Union to the United Nations. We will then have a keynote speech by Excellency Professor Mohamed Belhasine. We will then also have an interactive roundtable on the theme, Education through Science, Technology, and Innovation towards the Africa we want. And I'll tell you more about that later on. But for the moment, I would like you to please help me welcome Her Excellency Ambassador Fatima Mohamed, Permanent Observer of the African Union to the United Nations.
Thank you very much, moderator. Mr. António Guterres, U.S. Secretary General. Her Excellency Dr. Malik, Chairperson of the African Union, His Excellency Mr. Dennis Francis, President of the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly, Ambassador Matu Draini, PR of South Africa, Ambassador Sudan, PR of South Sudan, His Excellency Diomaye, PR of Cameroon, Ms. Christina Duarte, Under Secretary General, Office of the Special Advisor on Africa, Excellencies, Ambassadors, distinguished delegates in the room and joining us online, all protocols observed. Good afternoon to you all. And permit me to start by warmly welcoming all of you to this high-level policy dialogue of the Africa Dialogue Series 2024. The African Union Permanent Observer Mission to the UN is very proud to be partnering with the Office of the Special Advisor on Africa since 2018 to organize Africa Dialogue and Africa Dialogue Series. This high-level dialogue is part of this, and the idea is to have ADS echo the priorities of the African Union, and particularly the theme of the year. So this year, the theme is aligned with our theme on education. Educate in Africa, think of the 21st century, building resilient education systems for increased access to inclusive, lifelong, quality, and relevant learning in Africa. This was adopted by the AU Summit at its 35th session, which was held in Addis Ababa in 2023. And the decision to focus on education this year was following the UN Secretary General's Global Summit on Transforming Education, which took place in 2022. And throughout the month of May this year, we have partnered with a number of different agencies, including UNESCO, UNICEF, ILO, ITU, UNHCR, UNECA, and the World Bank to engage in strategic dialogues with policymakers, academia, civil society, and the private sector on the theme education through science, technology, and innovation toward the Africa we want. So the African Union theme itself aims to mobilize, and this is part of these mobilization efforts to create momentum toward the full implementation of the AU's 10-year continental education strategy for Africa, CISA 2016-2025. And the strategy is also a blueprint to create an education system and skills development that builds quality human capital to deliver the aspirations of AU's Agenda 2063, as well as the targets of our goals under the Sustainable Development Goals. So against this background, the AES has partnered and organized a number of activities and events over the past 3 weeks. And the idea was to amplify and change, if you like, the narrative towards fostering global consensus on innovative solutions to achieve our development agendas. So I have the pleasure today to not only welcome you, but also welcome this esteemed panel to present some few remarks on the theme of this year. And with that, I have the distinct pleasure to start by welcoming His Excellency Mr. António Guterres, UN Secretary General, to make his remarks. You have the floor, Secretary General.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, all protocol observed. 5 days ago, the world marked Africa Day, a celebration of the promise and potential of the people of the African continent. This month's dialogue series reminds us that unlocking that full potential depends on a key ingredient: education. Education is a driver of African prosperity and development. Education is an engine of opportunity for young Africans. Education links Africans with their cultural heritage and their past while preparing them for the future. And education is the foundation of the science, technology, and innovation-based economy Africa needs in the decades ahead. I commend the African Union for making education its theme for 2024 and highlighting the importance of overcoming challenges facing education systems across the continent. The lack of investment in infrastructure, persistently unequal access to education for girls, conflicts and climate-related disasters that place education of the rich for tens of millions of children and young people across Africa, insufficient numbers of qualified teachers contributing to a crisis in foundational curricula, and teaching methods that fail to prepare students for the world of today, especially in science, technology, engineering, and math, the so-called STEM subjects. At the 2022 Transforming Education Summit, countries have made commitments to advance their own vision for the creation of true learning societies anchored in quality education and sustainable development going forward. This includes lifelong learning, closing the digital and gender divides, and supporting teachers every step of the way. Specific policy recommendations that will emerge from this dialogue are an opportunity to ensure progress in the African context. I want to outline two areas in particular. First, progress is impossible without dramatically scaling up financing and investment into education systems. African countries have made significant strides. Almost one-third have reached the minimum threshold of 15% of public expenditures or 4% of GDP going towards education. But investments are hampered by economic challenges, including the lingering impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, skyrocketing costs of living, and an out-of-control debt crisis. Many African countries spend more on debt servicing than on healthcare, infrastructure, and education combined. Meanwhile, borrowing is hindered by the outdated, dysfunctional, and unfair international financial architecture. And the lopsided and inefficient global taxation system deprives African countries of higher domestic revenue. Last September, world leaders at the SDG Summit expressed support for an SDG stimulus of at least 500 billion per year. The stimulus also calls for a debt lifeline in developing countries some breathing room instead of punishing repayment schedules. And it calls for the expansion of contingency financing for countries in need, including rich and with special drawing rights. And we also need to see multilateral development banks adjusting their business models to better leverage private finance at a reasonable cost for developing countries. And this year, at the Summit of the Future, I expect to see concrete commitments from world leaders to fix the global financial system once and for all. And this must include ensuring greater African representation across all systems and institutions, including all aspects of the global financial system. Coupled with strong domestic resource mobilization systems, these are opportunities for African countries to dramatically increase investment in education in the coming years. I also urge support from other countries and multilateral development banks for the International Finance Facility for Education launched at the Transforming Educational Summit. It's time to deliver on the potential of this facility and mobilize $10 billion to help 700 million children access quality education across lower and middle-income countries. Second, African education systems must be anchored in science, technology, engineering, and math. Getting more children into school is not enough. African students, like students everywhere, need the skills and knowledge to compete in the modern global economy. STEM subjects are critical for agriculture and manufacturing, service delivery, in every aspect of business, large and small, the renewable green energy revolution taking root across Africa. Digital skills are a good example. The International Financial Corporation estimates that over 270 million jobs in sub-Saharan Africa will require digital skills by 2030. As we transform what students learn, we also need to transform how they learn. Digital technology technology offers a limitless platform to deliver education to learners, no matter where they live. It is also an opportunity to scale up education for the tens of millions of school-age children in Africa whose education is disrupted by crises like conflicts and natural disasters. Unlocking these benefits means overcoming a huge barrier. The fact that only 36% of Africans have access to broadband connectivity. I urge countries to work with technology companies and internet service providers and diverse initiatives to provide universal, high-speed connectivity and devices for every learner. It's time to close the digital divide and to mobilize the financial resources by the international community to make it possible. Excellencies, these issues and much more will be front and center at the UN convenings in Paris, New York, and Brazil this year, aimed at accelerating progress towards SDG 4 2027. They will also be central to the September Summit in Tunisia. I've invited all those leaders to attend, and it is especially critical that African leaders bring their ideas and solutions to building around education. The Africa we want must be supported by the education systems Africa needs. And I will continue standing with Africa across this essential work.
I thank the Secretary General for his statement and also for your commitment to SG to Africa. You've highlighted some very important points, but particularly the importance of partnerships, financing and investment, STEM education, but also most importantly, transforming the education systems, not what we learn, but how we learn. Thank you very much. I now have the pleasure to invite Her Excellency Dr. Moussa, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union, who will be presenting remarks on behalf of His Excellency Moussa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you. Your Excellency, António, United Nations Secretary General. Your Excellency, Mr. Bassirou, Diomaye, Faye, President of Senegal, and Chair of the African Union Committee of Heads of State Champions of STEM Education. Your Excellency, Mr. Dennis Francis, President of the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Your Excellency, Professor Mahamat, Commissioner for Education, Science, Technology, and Innovation. Excellency, Ambassador Paula Narvaez, Permanent Representative of Chile to the United Nations and President of the United Nations Economic and Social Council. Excellencies, Permanent Representatives, Senior United Nations Representatives, Honorable devotees, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to join you today and present some remarks on behalf of the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Moussa Faki Mahamat, who unfortunately could not join us today due to other pressing matters. However, please be assured that he is fully dedicated to the discussions and outcomes of this important gathering on the theme of the year. Your Excellencies, education plays a central role in the African Union's developmental goals and aligns with its theme of the year 2024, offering a unique opportunity to create momentum towards the full implementation of the continental education strategy for Africa, CESA we call it, running from 2016 to 2025, and the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goal 4, particularly aiming to ensure inclusive and quality education for all. CESA aims to create an education system and skills development that build quality human capital to achieve the aspirations of the African Union's Agenda 2063. Africa has also adopted a science, technology, and innovation strategy for Africa, STISA we call it. And this guides investments in this critical area. We firmly believe that science, technology, and innovation can accelerate the achievement of quality education in Africa, as well as the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2063. Without a doubt, Africa's economic transformation will be driven by investment in science, technology, and innovation, which is a key tool for creating innovative solutions, stimulating economic growth, and creating decent jobs for African youth. Additionally, science, technology, and innovation can bridge the skill gap in various sectors and increase Africa's contribution to global research and innovation output. Your Excellencies, the theme of the 2024 edition of the Africa Dialogue Series, highlighting the crucial role of science, technology, and innovation in achieving Africa's educational and sustainable development goals, as well as the three sub-themes, each addressing specific challenges and opportunities, including the importance of STEM education for Africa's economic future, the role of the digital revolution in enhancing education, and the issue of education in crisis-affected areas, allowed for in-depth exchange with a number of stakeholders with key recommendations that we need to take forward. In this regard, permit me to make the following points. The first one, harnessing the demographic dividend and the opportunities offered by the fourth industrial revolution in Africa requires expanding learning and training opportunities for all African youth and accelerating the economic transition to more innovative and value-added industrial sectors. The education system in Africa and African countries must meet the challenge, prioritize the development of human capital, and improve the outcomes of learning processes. My second message, while we recognize the persistent challenges facing the African education system, such as lack of infrastructure, insufficient funding, and gender and geographical inequalities, ensuring that Africa's youth are not left behind will require a concerted effort to address structural barriers and promote social dialogue, ensuring that all stakeholders have a voice in shaping the future of work. We must therefore prioritize the creation of decent and sustainable jobs through policies that promote lifelong learning, take green skills, and a just transition into account, and foster entrepreneurship, innovation, and inclusive growth. The third point is that one of the main obstacles to transforming education in Africa is insufficient and inequitable financing. I guess I did not put it better than you SG requests. Despite commitments made in the interim declaration and framework for action for the implementation of the SDG 4, public spending on education falls short, failing to promote equity. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated these challenges, highlighting the large financing gaps across countries, particularly in low and middle-income ones. It's crucial to mobilize sufficient, predictable, and equitable financing to overcome fiscal constraints and ensure that education spending is efficient and equitable. Transforming education in Africa requires a collective effort from governments, all stakeholders, and the international community, with initiatives like CESA playing a crucial role. By leveraging innovative finance and the digital revolution, Africa can overcome the current challenges and ensure that all its youth have access to quality education, thus unlocking their full potential and driving sustainable development across the continent. My fourth and final point is that in the context of instability and natural disaster, we need to mobilize all efforts to preserve hard-won education gains, protect schools and essential institutions, build resilience, and be ready for recovery. Partnerships between humanitarian and development actors need to be streamlined and strengthened to respond to immediate, short-term, and longer-term education needs at the earliest stages of crisis. The cornerstone for creating an enabling environment for inclusive and sustainable education for all is prevention. Efforts to prevent violent conflicts by addressing the drivers of fragility and the risks such as climate change, demographic shocks, patterns of discrimination, economic and social exclusion, and perceptions of grievances and injustice should be a priority. Your Excellencies, finally and in conclusion, I would like to emphasize the importance of skill of this meeting and the African Union's commitment to working with all stakeholders to translate the conclusions of our deliberations into concrete actions, leveraging on our strategic partnership with the United Nations, which remains crucial towards achieving our development agenda 2030 and 2063. As we work towards the summit of the future, our commitment to this fundamental objective is a crucial driver for creating a better future for future generations in Africa and beyond. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission for his statement. I now have the pleasure to invite His Excellency Mr. Dennis Francis, President of the 78th Session of the United Nations General Assembly, to present his remarks.
Distinguished members of the head table, Excellencies, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking the permanent observer of the African Union, Ms. Fatima Kayari Mohammed, and the Special Advisor on Africa, Ms. Christina Duarte, for their kind invitation to join you today. The theme of this year's Africa Dialogue series, Education through Science, Technology and Innovation, towards the Africa we want, could not be more opportune. Education is a fundamental human right, and it is key to unlocking all other human right opportunities, including social, economic, cultural, political, and civil rights. It is therefore no accident that both the AU's Agenda 2063 and the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development recognize its transformative power and have prioritized education as a critical enabler of inclusive growth and development. An emphasis that also aligns closely with the calls to action for investment in education towards the full implementation of SDG 4, made on the occasion of the Transforming Education Summit held in September 2022. From gender equality and empowerment of women and girls to decent work, equal pay, and even the ownership of land, it all builds on the hard-won gains achieved by many African countries themselves to improve access to education and promote gender parity in primary school enrollment. Amid the cross-currents of technological change, armed conflict, climate and geopolitical shifts shaping societies today, we must work together in solidarity to ensure education systems are anchored in the values that are timeless and processes that are fit for purpose across the board. We know that access to inclusive quality learning in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is particularly effective in spurring an uptake in homegrown solutions to sustainable development. This makes STEM education a central element in harnessing the full potential of Africa's vibrant and burgeoning youth population. By 2050, 1 in every 4 people and more than a third of the world's young people aged 15 to 24 are expected to be African. To realize Africa's ambitions, it is essential that we address the bottlenecks stifling the potential of its national education systems, particularly in STEM-related fields, among others, inadequate infrastructure, insufficient qualified teachers, and funding. More broadly, we must enhance the stability and resilience of African societies, doing more to attenuate the devastating effects of external shocks, from conflict to climate change, on the functioning of national education systems. And we must wake up from our stupor of the ballooning debt crisis, which is forcing many African countries to divert critical public funding from education towards the servicing of exorbitant interest payments. This difficult choice is snuffing out the policy space needed to promote growth and social equity, an unjust contortion of priorities no country should be forced to make. Indeed, between 2020 and 2023, only 12 countries met the benchmark of allocating at least 15% of total public expenditure and 3% of GDP to education. To turn things around, we must deliver on inclusive financing for development, anchored foremost in domestic resource mobilization systems that are robust and consistently effective, strengthening partnerships among governments, civil society, youth and women's associations, the private sector and development partners will be crucial if we are to enhance the resilience of national education systems and maximize their role in driving transformation across the African continent. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, as I conclude the Summit of the Future in September, when world leaders are expected to forge a new global consensus on tackling global challenges, will be a key moment to make progress on the future of education. We cannot miss this opportunity to ensure that Africa's young people are well equipped with the knowledge and skills they need to prosper. We must encourage scaled-up international cooperation in information and knowledge sharing in order to ensure that skilling, reskilling, and upskilling opportunities keep pace with the winds of change permeating our societies. This level of cooperation is critical for advancing the adoption and implementation of meaningful science, technology, and innovation policies. It would go a long way to bridging the digital divide that permeates the crisis of access, invigorating Africa's education systems, and encouraging research and slowing the brain drain across the continent. With a determined focus, STI can propel Africa's industrial development, sparking holistic economic transformations and offer more and better job opportunities for all. Education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world, in the words of Nelson Mandela. Together, let us ensure that people everywhere have access to the benefits of science and technological progress. Let us unlock the full potential of STI as a driver towards the Africa we want. I wish you a productive meeting and look forward to learning about the outcomes of those deliberations. Thank you.
I thank the President of the General Assembly for his remarks. We will now listen to a message from His Excellency Mr. Bassirou Diomaye Faye, President of Senegal and Chair of the African Union Committee of Heads of States, Champions of STEM Education.
Monsieur le Président de l'Assemblée générale des Nations Unies, Monsieur le Secrétaire général des Nations Unies, Monsieur le Président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Madame la Sous-Secrétaire générale des Nations Unies, Conseil spécial pour l'Afrique, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs, je voudrais tout d'abord me réjouir de la tenue de cette rencontre de haut niveau, dont l'objectif est de réfléchir ensemble sur l'avenir de l'éducation et de l'apprentissage en Afrique, sous le principe science, technologie et innovation.
La mise en œuvre du programme à l'horizon 2030, les STI sont d'ailleurs une composante essentielle. Les 37 pays présentant des examens nationaux volontaires présenteront de nouveaux éléments et l'innovation et des éléments novateurs pour montrer ce qui fonctionne. Mesdames et messieurs, l'Afrique a terminé la première décennie de la mise en œuvre du programme de 1063. Et tout ceci va nous aider à l'avenir à...
By this digital area, and by the fourth revolution, Africa will be left behind. We will be again a continent of despair, as we were during the 80th years. But fortunately, Madame Duarte and other participants to the meeting are saying that there is a way, and that way is through education, STEM education. And if we follow STEM education in Africa, then we will close the gap, and we will move our continent away from the trap. This is the essence of the message. Promoting STEM education and enhancing science, technology, and innovation capacity is a crucial way of changing and for authorizing Africa to move away and be ready global player. Therefore, African countries must scale up investment in education infrastructure, including improving educational facilities and facilitating the training of millions of teachers. We must also bridge the digital divide. Excellencies, to harnessing the opportunities offered by the fourth industrial revolution in Africa, we must ensure that our educational curriculum and human capital development strategy are owned, contextualized, and focused on leveraging innovation and technology advance to boost productivity, manufacturing, value addition, economic diversification, and structural transformation. This is key, and we must seize the momentum created by the establishment of the African Continental Free Trade to create more decent jobs, particularly to the manufacturing sector. The free flow of goods, services within the Africa offers massive opportunities to promoting economies of scale and regional values. This will help creating an enabling environment for sustainable and inclusive industrialization, investment, and also entrepreneurship. Excellency is clear. Above all, we have also the young people in Africa. We also have our diaspora. This is the time for all of them to come back to the continent faithfully, fully, in order to bring back what they have, also have experience, knowledge, and know-how during their own stay in other parts of the world. What we need now is people not working for Africa, but people who work with Africa. What we need really now is not any more think tank. They're not thinking on the table. What we need is tools tank. Let them bring tools from the tank and let us simply move forward exactly to make our continent what the founding fathers of the African Union said in the Agenda 2063, a driving force in the world toward the horizon 2063. Those are the remarks I want to make. Again, I thank Madam Guterres for operating this meeting. I hope that after taking her office as really a grand captain advocating the all priority of Africa, after making her office as authoritative source of key advice to the Senegal and to the African citizen, one day when she embarked us here, we should simply use tools tank and encourage her to look at those tools tank as well, so that during further meeting we use all the tools. No more talking, but more acting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's Dr. Monte, our Dean in Africa. You have the floor.
Thank you. At all various stages of life and for various needs. Education is what takes nations forward. And as Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. He further said, education is the great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become the head of the mine, that a child of farm workers can become the president of a great nation. It is what we make out of what we do, not what we are given, that separates one person from another. My own mother, by the way, told me that education is my best husband. Coming to this theme in the 21st century that entails challenges and opportunities. Despite the many achievements that we're doing in these African countries, so far in this century, there is still so much to do and the area of speakers. And while our countries are unique, additional resources have been sourced, forcing our countries to incur debt at great cost. Today, many African countries are highly indebted, and unfortunately, addressing sovereign debt has become one of the impediments to development of growth. And as I said, addressing the SDGs. And we have all seen that the statistics that indicate the cost of servicing debt vis-a-vis budgets allocation for health, education, and infrastructure. I think the SG spoke to that area. Regardless, the current challenges should not get in the way of pursuing education with vigor. In fact, we need education to take up all these challenges. And hence, Transforming Education Summit in 2022 was so critical and we need to implement these outcomes. On digital transformation and impact on education excellencies, we know that the currency of the 21st century is digital. New and frontier technologies are the order of the day. Luckily, the AU has implemented strategies. We've heard about CISA, we've heard about the Learning Science Technology Innovation strategy for Africa. But further, we have in place the Digital Education Strategy Implementation Plan for 2023-2028. The challenge will be our commitment to implementing these strategies in all areas, and knowing the impediments and how to collectively tackle those impediments. The ongoing negotiations on the Global Digital Compact as part of the Pact of the Future and the Summit of the Future gives us a good opportunity to ensure our needs as Africa and our interests are taken into account and that our challenges are addressed. To date, the Africa Group has done its best in coordinating its input into the complex process that's underway, but we can do better. And I just want to quickly recognize our own ambassador of Zambia, Mr. As we negotiate the compact, the global digital compact, let us be close to an African lens at all the aspects of it, whether it's AI governance, role of data governance, digital economies, print technologies, digital skills and capacities. Let's look at all of that in an African lens. And I just want to say meaningful participation